You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
Hey guys, welcome back. You're listening to the second part of last week's episode. Let's jump back in.
I want to ask, okay, so I've got two questions that are more about you guys than your business, or maybe they're not necessarily more about you guys than your business, but I'm going to move this more personal because I've got two big questions for you guys. The first is about, we mentioned this in the beginning, your sort of focus on designing a business that serves you and your family. So you guys have an absolutely beautiful family. It's a big family, right? I've got two kids of my own. I am already feeling like today before this call, like I perked up when we started doing the call, but like right before the call, I was just like, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff going on. And I got to bring one of the kids to soccer. And one of the other kids has got to go to acting. And then I'm supposed to go work out. And it's a lot, right? It is a lot.
Yeah.
And you guys handle a lot of stuff, more stuff than I did. So I'm curious, like through this process, because I'm sure you didn't always have it like buttoned up, and I'm sure there's always stuff that still feels chaotic now, but like, what have been the lessons that you guys have learned about designing a business that serves you and your kids and your family, right? Because you guys got the coaching thing and the real estate thing. Those are two big things, right? I just want to know how you manage this process. I'm really curious, like how you think through that issue.
You know, I don't think we had that all figured out in the beginning.
Yeah,
I'm not sure we have it all figured out now.
No, and right. I think it's a constantly evolving process. I think a big thing is having the right team and not trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And that has been really, really instrumental in us feeling like we can be owners and not operators. And I think it's also important when you're talking about family. This is a little bit off topic from your exact question, but I think it's just really important to be really present in the moment that you're in, you know, whether it's in business or whether it's when you're spending time with your family.
And we've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, we have with our, yeah. So, you know, even something as simple as if I'm taking my daughter to ballet and I'm sitting there at the glass looking at her, she'll call me on it if she comes out and she's like, you weren't watching, you were on your phone. So, you know, like it's just really being really present in the moment that you're in. And there's no like true thing such as balance. I think you're always out of balance one place or the other, but I think if you can be really present. And the other thing I think that's really, really, really important is that you stay connected to people, whether those people are your employees or whether they're your colleagues or whether they're your children or your spouse.
I'll just say your spouse too, because there were times when we were really busting, when we were managing 30, 40 houses all ourselves and trying to do it. There were times we'd be in the car together, Dan, all day in the car together, all night, and never have a conversation
with each other.
Yeah.
You know, not and
we're like giving high fives. Oh, Ray, I mean,
it wasn't that we weren't. Well, some days we were fighting, but most times we were just on the phone and doing business and then talking business.
Right.
And get home. I never talked to my wife today. I talked to my partner today.
Right.
I never talked to my wife today. So we started to implement date nights a while ago, long time ago. We were getting back. I missed them. We first went to Florida. We had an in-house nanny, and she's dating our older son. She wasn't his nanny, to be clear. So she was, I have to clear that up with everybody. They're the same age. So
yeah, look, hold on. Your record scratch sound to like, hold on, let's do this real quick. Okay, cool. But you had a sort of built-in babysitter basically, or someone did.
And then we lost that. And honestly, our relationship took a little bit of a hit when we first moved here because all of a sudden we're like, why are we kind of getting on each other again? We had lots of therapy. We know how to do all this. You know, what's going on? And then
a lot of stress with reading.
There was. But we also were spending time on the job.
Right.
We just weren't spending time sometimes on a date and trying to talk about business. Now, it always comes up because it's our life, but we try to talk about other things, you know, and I think those are important. And I just second what Amber said. If you don't have the right team, you'll get sucked back in the business. Look, in the past year, I've gotten sucked back in the business. And I had a long story, but I had a CFO that developed a drinking problem and we caught her drinking in the car. We left and we were here in Florida to New York. My team caught her drunk in the back of the car and we're like, so we fired her on the spot. Now I was going to jump in and try and unscrew, I'll keep the language clean here, but unscrew this situation and I'm in the middle of doing bookkeeping for 2 multi-million-dollar companies. And I've got multiple bookkeepers that are helping, but I have to be there to get that knowledge, right?
Right.
And I suddenly realized how stressful it is being in the business. But every night I kind of make a plan for myself what I want to do for the day. And Dan, one of the things that I got away from, and just recently I got back into it, is I have it sitting in front of me, but I have a little book that I write in every day. And I say, what are my most important rocks today? And most of my rocks wind up being my relationship stuff with my wife, with my kids, and I've been, T-ball or not T-ball, Little League starts on Saturday. Now I have to miss the person, which just rips my heart apart. But I've been practicing every night. I got them hitting and catching pop-ups, and I don't turn my phone on when I'm with him for the hour. My 7-year-old, that's what we do. I'm playing horse with my little girl. That's what I do. So I'm not perfect at it, but the goal is that I don't answer my phone and I don't do anything except for be present in the moment, like Amber said.
In the beginning though, Dan, if we've got listeners that are just getting started and wanting to start that initial scaling, and this is one thing we work with our students on too. So Glenn mentioned earlier that 1 year where we went to 20 houses, we grew too fast. And that was because we were trying to wear all the hats ourselves.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've really learned through it's called a PI index, is what we're good at, what we have the capacity to do, what our natural personality is drawn to, and that sort of thing. So by hiring the right people, we call it the right butt for the right seat, by hiring the right people to go in that seat, and it actually gives you this freedom to be yourself and to use what may have been a weakness in one part of your life as a strength in the next part of your life, because you're giving yourself permission to do what you're good at and have somebody else do the stuff that you're not good at.
Yeah.
We're not House, a great book to read as far as that goes too.
Sure.
Yeah. I think you guys are hitting on, it's interesting. Like I have a very similar story of this past year of sort of being very out of the day-to-day and then getting kind of sucked back into the day-to-day and kind of realizing like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is not what I was like, I could do this. I could do everything on my own. But that's not necessarily fun, right? So that hiring question is so critical. You mentioned predictive index, which is awesome. And I've used that too. And I found that really interesting. When you are thinking about adding someone to your team, right? And you're thinking about hiring, obviously like the testing and everything is great, but it's also hard to get a sense of who someone is, right? When you're in an interview, right? Or whatever, maybe even the first couple of times that you see them. Is there something that you listen for or look for more than other things when you're hiring? Are you really looking at their personality type, like on the test? Are you listening for work ethic, or what's that thing that you listen for that at least helps you make the decision of like, yeah, this is so critical to have the right people on this team. You want to make sure you get the right people in there. What do you listen for when you're trying to make that decision?
I have one word: values. Do their values.
Well played, Amber. Right. I was trying to think, that was well played. I'll leave the interview now. You just go ahead and bring it up. Yeah.
Do the values align with yours?
Yeah.
And where you want. I mean, obviously it's a big picture type of thing. You're going to get that gut feeling on the first end. You're going to see if your personalities gel. You're going to see if, and the work ethic, you have to consider that. I mean, all of those things certainly play a factor, but at the end of the day, you need to have similar values in order to.
Yeah. If you don't have a good culture in your company, and if you let the wrong person in that culture, they could destroy it. They could be a cancer quickly. And so that's, I've had that experience. I worked for myself since I was 19. So that's 35 years, man. I've worked for myself. So it's been a long time. And I've been having employees in my life, hundreds of employees over the years, and, lots of hiring and firing. And that's the part I hate, the firing part. But I was thinking when you were talking, it depends on the position, what I'm looking for. But at the end of the day, you're right. If your values don't align with mine, what's the point?
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying 3 levels down. If I have a manager who's got a team and stuff, they don't, but hopefully if I've done my job right, the managers that I've hired share my values and Amber's values and the company values. And if they do, hopefully when they hire, they are doing the same thing. I think if you could instill that in your team, because we've got about 50 employees, I think, overall with our companies, and, that keeps us busy. So I don't work with all of them on a regular basis, but hopefully, if I see any of them, they'll know what our core values are, and they'll know what we stand for, what our mission is. Our mission in Investor Pro is helping everyday people create wealth through real estate investing. And we say, because that's who we are, and that's what we did, right? So that's kind of everybody. The other day we had a leadership meeting, and one of our coaches was here. We get coached too. And we had a coach here, and he said, no, this leadership team was 6 people. We flew into Florida, and they said, now what's the mission here? And they all recited. I just sat back like a proud pop. I'm like, all right. All right.
No. Yeah. And you guys have a catchy one. I feel like I wrote my mission statement and it was like 3 paragraphs long. And I was like, this is probably.
Yeah. It takes time. You know, it's a good exercise. We actually did when our coach was here, when he started talking about what your purpose, your personal purpose is.
Yeah.
Then tying that purpose to the business. It was really, I'm working on it. I'm not there yet because I started out with this, like you, okay, I want to do this. Well, wait a minute. A lot of guys have it down to 2 words or 3 words, or I'm like, well, that's interesting. So it's a work in progress and it can change, but having that purpose, I found just as I started to do that, that's just about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I started to think differently, Dan. I started to think about where I put my time and who I want to spend time with. It's funny when you have that kind of narrowed down. I know for me, a big part of my purpose is inspiring other people. I'm not sure what that ties into exactly, but inspiring people is a big part. When you go to this questionnaire, inspiring kept coming up and people kept saying that about me. And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's what I'm the happiest when I'm inspiring other people. So I know that's what it is for me. Now I've got to tie that into more of a purpose. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's inspiring. I don't know.
Okay. I want to ask you guys, we got to wrap it up, and I could just keep asking a million questions about all this stuff because I find your guys' approach both to your business and to real estate investing and the people that you help, right, in your workshops and everything, just so refreshing and down to earth and like also very effective, right? So I think that's such a wonderful kind of antidote to what is a lot of the real estate investing education, world.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
I want to ask you guys what it is like. You talked about this a little bit, but tell me what you have learned from working with each other, because we're recording this. As the date we're recording this, I won't reveal it on the podcast because people will hear this later. Today is my 10th wedding anniversary.
Happy
right? So
anniversary.
Thank you very much. And, I'm very happily married, but there's ups and downs. There's a long relationship, right? That's a lot. And I was getting ready for this interview and I was thinking about talking to you guys. And I was like, what would it be like if I worked with my wife? And I was like, well, I'd be divorced. So that's one, so I think I asked her very early on and she was like, I have zero interest in work. Like, absolutely not. Right. Like, that's a terrible idea. And we're like, cool. We've never talked about it again.
Good. If we're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm curious, right? It strikes me that people always say this, right? It's marriage and business partnerships are incredible vehicles for personal growth, right? They are difficult, thorny relationships that require a lot of work. And you guys have both of that. So however you want to attack that problem, what would you say are some of the things you've learned from working with each other? And that could be personal or business or both. I'm really curious.
Well, the impression that's always been, we've always had fun together.
Yeah.
You're under that impression?
Yeah, there are days I could tell you that we're lucky that either one of us are still alive.
Yeah.
And
yes. Yeah.
Speaking of the PI index, we did that. And
we did the PI index. Yeah, and the guy. Let me tell it. And we did our PI indexes, and Gary, our coach, said this a couple years ago. He goes, wow.
You're like a match made in heaven.
You guys are a match made in heaven. You guys could dominate. He goes, but I bet when you fight, I could sell tickets. And that summarized our relationship. Now, like constant joke, and it's actually a trivia question on Jeopardy during our whole workshop is, how do 2 type A personalities live together and work together? And the answer is
$25,000 in therapy and lots of booze.
Yeah.
So, but
4 years, $45,000 in therapy and alcohol.
I'll tell you what the shift was that happened whenever things got better. Because in the beginning,
we battled, man. We battled hard. It was there were times we didn't know we were going to make it. Man. Just being honest with you, I think it's important people know that because not every couple, especially when you're both strong enough. You have one passive and one aggressive. well, maybe that'll work. Or if you have two strong will, not going to give up, going down without a fight personalities, you'll fight over the color of a nail and just drag that shit out for a month. You know what I mean? So,
But probably the thing that really changed a lot of that though was when we defined our roles. Yeah. And that's the advice we give to any, whether it's a husband and wife or a mother and son that are like any sort of couple that's working together. Define your roles, because then the blame game starts, and then you support each other within their roles. But in all honesty, I still don't like working directly with him.
What the hell? Where'd that come from? We're gonna do this live?
This is where it's all coming out. It's all coming out.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
But I have a sense of what you mean, though, right? Because do you mean like when your roles essentially overlap too much, or it's like
kind of either overlap or, Glenn is on an extreme visionary. Like he was off the charts on the PI index. Like he wasn't even measurable, and so he can be very distracted. And change his distracted and distracting both. So like I might work on something that we've talked about doing for a long time, and it might take me 6 weeks to get that project done because it's that big.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to use that anymore. Like I wanted to strangle him. So
that's been a long time.
That's why I just don't do anything like that with anyone. So
you hear that right here on the Barrett Show. I'm getting,
but it's not like therapy. It helped us a lot. We got to where we stopped throwing sand in the sandbox at each other, and we learned how to fight fair and learned how to show respect to each other. And speaking of respect, we both read a book last year called Love and Respect.
Yeah, great book.
Which was actually very, very
great book for a marriage.
It was very well written and very what we listened to it. So it was very well read as well. And it was just very applicable to what's expected of a man and a woman. Because, we're different. I don't care, all the political stuff that's out there right now. Men and women have different sets of emotions and process things differently for the most part. Yes, there's always anomalies and people that are different. But for the most part, we function in different ways.
Yeah.
So that book was really good for us. And I think
that it's funny. So that came, I had heard about it before. And then I had a copy, I just never read it. And then one of our students, who's actually in our upcoming show, David King, he's a pastor, and he recommended we're joking around our marriage with days. You ever read the book? I said, no. You know what? You were the third person I've heard it from, so I'm going to do that. So it's funny how when you build relationships with students, they can become your mentors too in other areas of life. I
like five love languages was good too, but I don't think it was as good as
my love and respect was even better.
Those to the next level.
It really showed what men want, what women want. It gave you a good perspective of the other sex. You know what I mean? So you can really do it. So that was a big helpful thing for us for sure. And yeah. And me just saying yes, dear, most of the time makes it a whole lot better too. So
yes, that's the path of least resistance. But I do think it's like the thing that really strikes me, and I've found this book, right? It's the Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs. Does that sound? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll put a link to that in the show notes and everything if people want to check it out. I certainly will. But I think the thing that I find so refreshing and kind of touching about you guys is not necessarily like the specific thing that you landed on. It's just that you both obviously really care about making it work, right? I mean, you like I said, you put in the time, you put in the money, you put in the effort, you listen to the book, right? I mean, I think ultimately that's my takeaway. It's, you can't expect it to just work itself out, right? You got to.
Well, the last thing I want to add there, Dan, is the same thing I brought up before is connection. Because if you don't, you can, just for example, like with my kids, you can go through life. I can take them to all other practices after school and all this stuff and all that. But if I'm not having like an actual conversation with them, am I really connected with them?
Yeah.
And at the same time with your spouse, like you can go through your life, you can each go to your individual jobs, we can either work together in a company like this. But if you're not like touching each other at the heart level, that connection is going to
other levels.
But I mean that's why so many couples have a hard time when their kids are grown and they're empty nesters. Like they've lost all that connection between the two of you. And I think that it's really, really important to keep that. And in psychology, they say that, like as a parent, you're like, I'm putting my kids first. But in psychology, they actually say the best role modeling you can do for your child is to put your spouse first, because then that's what they're going to look for in me, is the person that's going to put them first, not somebody else or something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something to be said too about making sure you have energy to give, right? By making sure you don't just deplete yourself trying to give to everybody else but yourself. I want to touch base on your workshop. We're coming up on time. I want to end this up. I know you guys have one of these seminars coming up, but for people who are listening to this, give us the kind of overview of like what it's like. I would love for people to go check this out. So as a reminder, if you're listening to this, we're talking to Glenn and Amber Schworm, right? Their website is glennandamber.com. It's 2 N's in Glenn, glennandamber.com.
Yes, 2 N's in Glenn. Yep.
Yep. And so people can go there and check it out. There'll be a link to your stuff, but give people the overview of what you guys do in these workshops. There's multiple days. It's like really high quality information. Give people an overview of what they can expect, what they can learn there.
I tell you, and I'll tell your listeners, if anybody that's remotely interested, if you go to Home Flipping Workshop or Home Flipping Workshop online, just Google Home Flipping Workshop and look at the reviews. We've got, I don't know, probably over 12 or 1,300 5-star reviews. We've been doing this particular one coming up is actually on our 6th anniversary. So we've touched thousands and thousands of lives. We take people from, the first thing we can do is talk about your mindset. And believe it or not, people are like, mindset? I'm like, look, give me permission here because I know what I'm talking about. And Dan, the Robin stuff. I say, what's the most important part of a house? They finally get around to the answer. It's the foundation. It's the most important part of your business. They get around to saying, well, me. Right. So you're the foundation of your business. So we don't work on you. First time somebody knocks you over, you're going to fall if you don't have a strong foundation. So I want to get you strong. So I give them some tools for that. Then we jump in, pretty much trying to find off market deals. We even do a capital raise. They can raise money right at the event for themselves. They can go online, do some stuff, and we actually raise money with them. They don't have to accept it, but we show them what they can get. They can have it at their fingertips. We go through all the different funding methods that we do, private lending and all that. We go over contractors, how to find contractors. We go over find, fund, fix, and flip and hold. Do a whole section on rentals because we're strong believers in flipping some houses or really building rental portfolio. That's really where the money is and the wealth is. Yeah, so we go over all that, and it's a lot of fun in between. We have blooper reels we play of ourselves. We have some fun commercials of ours. So we have live students come on and talk to give their story. It's really interactive. It's shockingly, again, I'm with you. I was like 3 days, Zoom fatigue, but I have them stand up. We take breaks about every hour and a half. And if we go up doing stuff, they come back, and we just have a lot of fun. And the whole idea is to get people empowered and feel like they could take on the world when they go out there. We do have a handful of people that will choose from every class. Not everybody, really, it's a small handful that we work with personally to make sure they can reach their goals. And so that's a whole thing we explain at the workshop, but that's something that we do there. We charge $59 for 3 days, man. So it's crazy inexpensive.
And he's a great speaker. Like he comes alive. Like, and in doing this and working with students, it's like getting to relive our early days, because now it's just like a day in the life up. But we get so excited when our student cashes their first, $50,000 or $70,000 profit check from their deal or their 7th deal or whatever. Like it brings a smile to our face.
Yeah, for sure. We love that part. So like I said, we have other speakers come on too. So we have speakers come on talking about asset protection, business credit, having the right entity, using your 401k and self-directed IRAs. We have so many different people that come on and talk about different things. Jeff Miller is the VP of Sunmark Credit Union. He comes on and talks about how to do it alongside your current job. And, Amber speaks a whole session on a lot of different things for the workshop, but it's
super comprehensive.
It is. I talk to a camera, but you don't know it. Look, I'm right in your living room and I'm live animated the same way I am all the time. I love it.
$59, but we want people to leave feeling like they got $59,000.
Yeah. I think I have had the pleasure of seeing you guys on stage. I will say, and I wouldn't say this if it wasn't true. I would just be like, that sounds great. And I would go on to the next thing. So no one would ever know. You guys are really good on stage and you're really good at teaching. This is not, and I always say this to people, knowing how to do a thing and being able to teach that thing are very different skills. You guys have both. You are awesome. And it's ridiculously, the price is absolutely bonkers, right? So, it's like I have to tell people, I'm like, okay, as I'm recording this, I was like, next year, I'm getting into real estate investing. I've been doing this long enough. I'm going to actually do it a little bit. You guys are going to be one of the first people I buy their stuff. It's a no-brainer. So if anybody's listening to this, like I said, it's glennandamber.com. It's 2 N's in Glenn, glennandamber.com, or you can go to homeflippingworkshop.com just to go check out the seminar. You guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. I will not say this if this was not true. I would just be like, this was great. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I think you are amazing people. not just amazing investors. And I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. It's been awesome.
Well, we feel the same about you. When we looked up today and said, "Who we got today?" I go, "Yeah, Ben." Good stuff. Yeah, I was excited. So yeah, good stuff. Thanks for having us on, man. I appreciate it. Your folks want to go grab a copy of our book on Amazon too. They can. It's The Birth of the Everyday Real Estate Investor. And you can find that on our Glenn and Amber page too. So
we didn't even talk about your podcast, which is called Real Estate of Mind. On the Glenn and Amber page, that's everything on there. But our
social media links.
Yeah,
our book's hitting immediately here. So by the time this airs, that'll be out. We're hoping for that to be a big turnout. And we're excited, man. We're heading into a great time in real estate investing if you know what to do. Not for the lucky, now it's for the good.
All right. Well, go and check them out, glennandamber.com for all of that fun stuff. And thank you guys again. That is it. That's it for our interview this week. As always, you can get the show notes for this episode and all our past episodes over at AdWordsNerds.com. Just go and click the thing that says podcast up at the top there. You will find it. And look, if you could leave us a review, I would really appreciate it. It helps other people find the show. I read every single one and they really mean a lot to me. So if you've been listening to this episode or any of our past episodes, you got some value out of it, do us a favor, leave us a review. I would really appreciate it. I will see you guys next week, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
This is the podcastfactory.com.